Aprovechando que estamos en el último día del HPE Discover 2016, nos reunimos con algunos de los bloggers para preguntarles si en su perspectiva cumplió con todas sus expectativas el HPE Discover 2016 y por supuesto qué es lo que esperan ver el siguiente año. De manera adicional, les preguntamos a ellos qué es lo que opinaban y cuál está entre su lista de deseos más locos ver el siguiente año en temas de HPE Discover 2017. Vamos a escucharlos. Y ahora vamos a platicar con Phillip Sellers de Techazine, quien nos va a compartir sus opiniones acerca del HPE Discover 2016. So, Phillip, in your opinion, this 2016 HPE Discover met your expectations?
Yeah, I think so. I've seen some really cool new tech during the conference. Got to talk with some folks about non-volatile DIMMs and NVMe and 3D Crosspoint and some other things like that. And so there's lots of things I think coming in the pipeline that really cool to hear about and have me ready for future developments.
That's very cool. In my opinion, I think this was the year of transformation for HPE. They were focused more on showing alliances instead of showing big products, and I think it's going well for them. So what do you expect to see in the next event in 2017?
So, you know, we were here a year ago after they separated from the consumer HP Inc. And, you know, kind of expected this year to be a little calmer.
Yes.
But yeah, they've had some recent announcements spinning out their software and their services. And so, you know, it's hard to say. I'm not sure if they're done. I'm not sure what else they could spin out possibly, but you know, it's interesting that we've had those two major announcements in the past year, and I think there's a lot of settling that's going to have to happen inside the organization. So next year's hard to say, but I think the technologies will drive a lot of their announcements. You're right, there were a lot of announcements around partnerships and more of an openness to embrace the best of breed sort of solutions, even if they're outside of the HP portfolio. So, you know, shedding some of the weight of their other divisions, I think can only help the infrastructure divisions. You know, and like I said, technologies coming along are pretty exciting, where we could be within computing and in storage and in the networking in the coming years. So I think that next year, I expect we're going to see a lot more of those technology type breakthroughs coming to actual products. And they talked about some of the conceptual stuff that they're working on within photonics that are ready to be productized and, you know, inside of HP Labs, and also the developments they're working on with Micron with non-volatile DIMMs. I mean, that's a potential huge game changer that could drive all sorts of innovation.
I was thrilled when they showed the 3D cache. It's an amazing technology, and the machine, it's one of the most amazing announcements in the compute industry for a long time now. I am not saying I'm expecting a new version next year, but probably in my wish list is seeing an iteration of the machine number 2, probably a different way of compute the information, probably quantum, but it's just my wish list. So do you have a wish list, something you would like to see in the next year?
Well, talking about the machine, I agree with you. It's pretty exciting stuff that they're working on with memory-centric computing, and ginormous available pools of RAM with processing surrounding that pool. I don't know that we'll see like a version 2 of it next year. I'm not sure that the innovation's happening quite that fast, but you know, it is certainly a huge accomplishment for them to have a working prototype at this point. So it's been cool to watch that journey over the last few years as they've moved through this process to actually have that working prototype. So I hope next year we see an actual enclosure and some more applications and things running on the machine. You know, they've talked about theoretical things that they could do and tests that they've done on traditional hardware, utilizing it the way they would use the machine. You know, sorts of analytical data loads, that big data sort of problems, and you know, I would hope that maybe the next logical thing would be working with some particular research teams outside of HP Labs to try and put their workloads and see how that actually performs in some real world tests and stuff. So that's what I would be looking forward to in that regard for next year or for the next time that we're around these folks.
Ahora estamos platicando con Paul Teich, él es from Tirias Research, y vamos a platicar acerca de sus impresiones acerca del evento del HPE Discover 2016. So Paul, we saw a big transformation of HPE this year. We didn't see a lot of announcements, but certainly they were just making some noise. In your opinion, this 2016 met your expectations?
Yeah, it did. This year, I think that what I was looking for was some indication from Meg's team that they have an overall strategy. We look at what HPE has such a complete product portfolio. We kind of look at it as a bag of parts, and it's sometimes like AWS. It's hard to pull out the overarching themes from this when they have so much to offer. They trying to be everything to everyone. And I think what we saw here at HPE is they're focusing, okay, at Discover. That the Micro Focus spin out, the CSC spin out, some of the language they're using here is kind of honing down to specific markets, specific sets of technologies. And so it's a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, where they've simply just listed everything they're doing. There are major themes here in terms of wireless and campus management, in terms of cloud scale data centers and enterprise. So I've enjoyed it, and I think it was different than I expected.
Yeah, for me, when they released the 3D catch inside of as a new technology and IoT became part of the conversation, I was happy because I think for the first time they are going to be just showing real applications and not only theoretical applications. So I would like to see in 2017 more than that. And I'm expecting, because the new hyperconverged server, the Synergy, is going to be available next year. So probably we're going to be hearing a lot from the customers. But what do you like to see in 2017?
2017, I think for me, there's a couple of things. One is the Edgeline IoT strategy, as you mentioned, is pretty innovative. And so I really want to see the use cases. Okay, Edgeline 4000 especially. It's a very interesting design point with the reusing the moonshot cards as compute nodes and using National Instruments data acquisition cards. So PXI. We have to introduce embedded technology now into the discussion. So I'm looking forward to kind of where that technology meets the market. What are the applications in the industrial Internet of Things that really call for Edgeline 4000? Because it is such a different design point. I'm looking at one of the themes here was HP had always kind of signaled that the technologies in the machine would be used in other design points, other server product lines. I think that calling it the machine, a singular, right? When you say it's the machine, most folks inferred that would actually be a product, and here they've kind of said no, okay, that's not going to be a product. But still restating that those technologies are going to appear. So I want to see which pieces of the machine appear over the next year in commodity server data center infrastructure.
I agree with you. And when they announced the partnership with NVIDIA, and now we can see the GeForce card being used not only for graphics, but also for compute, it came to my mind one of the things in my wish list that I would like to see next year. I would like to see a new iteration of the machine, probably something closer to quantum computing, but probably we are not yet, but it's in my wish list, you know? So do you have something you would like to see next year that is on your wish list? Even if that's crazy, I mean, that's the idea for the wish list.
Wow, quantum computing, I like that. I think For me, I'm going to be a little bit more mundane. I would like to see persistent memory, large pools of persistent memory actually deployed in a machine learning analytics, Spark, Hadoop type applications. So they've mentioned some benchmarks, some significant speed ups. I'd like to see them actually deploy that technology this year. I think that we're in this explosion of machine learning technologies, especially. It's changing how we think about big data and analytics, and so that's what I'm really looking for is the promise of non-volatile large pools of memory in accelerating analytics.
So the Discover in 2016 is over. Do you think it actually met your expectations?
Definitely my expectations. I've been coming to these Discovers for a couple of years now, and sometimes you get the super big news, sometimes you get the smaller news, but it's still just as important as anything. I mean, we learn about partnerships, we learn about new technologies, we learn about how HPE is restructuring, and that's the biggest thing with all the software now moving over to drawing a blank. That's what happens on the last day of the show. But the whole point is that the new direction, the new roadmap, I think that it's going in the right direction.
For me, this Discover was about all the alliances they are doing.
Exactly.
They are, instead of doing just one product, they are doing multiples, and they have partnership with other companies. So speaking on that, what do you think we're going to be expecting for the next year?
Well, we're going to expect a lot of innovation, because usually when you pair up with smaller companies, it just kind of brings a fresh idea to the table, and new ideas come from those ideas, and I think we'll see some great stuff this next year.
If you would have the chance to speak directly to HPE with the directors, what is on your wish list for the next year? Something crazy. I would like to have the second version of the machine, for example, something more into the quantum computing. But what is your wish list?
There's a lot of different things. To single something out is tough to do, but I think that HP, I think it's just stay on track. That's the important thing. If they got the plan now, we know what the plan is. It's kind of like a certain football teams, American football teams, since we're in London. You have rebuilding years, and then you have years where you know that your team's going to go. We're at a rebuilding stage, so let's ramp it up first. Let's figure and then see where things go from there. My expectation is just keep the steady course and see where it goes.
Excellent. So Jake, all the people are talking about this was the year for HPE for making all of the partnerships. Do you think, in your opinion, this event just met your expectations?
This definitely met my expectations. I think one of the things that's been interesting to me is seeing that IoT is less of a talking point, and it's more of an actual reality where you're seeing, even at Meg's keynote, the demonstration that they had with robotics and how the edgeline systems are being used to allow robotics manufacturing to make smarter decisions because of all the sensor technologies and being able to do analytics like right at the manufacturing floor. And that piece is interesting to me. Also, I got a chance to look at Intel's 3D Crosspoint that's being tied into 3PAR, and HPE is the first company to have 3D cache coming out. And so those two things to me are probably like the two most interesting that I've seen.
Excellent. So speaking of that, we saw that this year we didn't see a huge innovation, but there's a restructure of HPE. So in your opinion, what do you think we are going to be seeing in the next year?
Well, I think for sure we're going to be seeing that synergy systems are going to be shipping out into the world, because that's coming early next year. Mm-hmm. And so I think going from them having 100 customers right now who are doing kind of early testing, and knowing 6 months from now in Las Vegas and a year from now wherever Discover is happening in 2017 in Europe, I think it's going to be interesting to see what learnings they have from people actually having the synergy systems deployed in data centers.
Excellent. For example, in my wish list for next year, I would like to see a new iteration of the machine, probably something closer to the quantum computing. In your wish list, what would you like to see in 2017?
I'll take it a step back a little bit and just say I would be happy to see non-volatile memory deployed in functional systems. I don't need a full-on whole new machine, but non-volatile memory being something that is practical and could be deployed in a data center solution, that I'd like to see.